Welcome to the deep dive. This is where we take the information you're interested in, cut through the noise, and really pull out the core insights for you.
That's the plan.
So today we're diving into AI coding assistants. Specifically, we want to look at the practical side, how one of these tools, Cursor, is actually being used.
Forget the hype and the headlines for a bit. We're focused on the real-world impact. Like, what does it actually change for a developer sitting down to code?
Exactly. We've been looking at this really good discussion comparing a few different AI tools.
Right.
And we're pulling out the useful bits about Cursor. What's it really doing for developers, like right now? Not some far-off future thing.
It's about the here and now.
Our source for this is an excerpt called Windsurf's Cursor Client Who Will Replace Your Dev.g Episode 3.pdf. Bit of a dramatic title, maybe?
Huh. Yeah, a little bit.
But the actual discussion inside, it's full of practical stuff about these tools. So let's paint a picture. You're a developer, right? Maybe you're, I don't know, stuck on some horrible bug in an API endpoint.
We've all been there, questioning everything.
Or maybe you inherit this, ancient code base. Massive. Feels impossible to understand.
Yeah, legacy code nightmares.
Traditionally, that's hours, maybe days, of just debugging, tracing lines, trying to map it all out in your head.
So the question is, how does something like Cursor change that picture? Does it offer a different path?
Well, let's start with just understanding the code you're looking at. That seems fundamental.
Absolutely. And one of the first practical things highlighted in the source is Cursor's ability to summarize code. Give you the gist.
Okay, summarize. So break that down. You've got this huge file, hundreds, maybe thousands of lines you've never seen before.
Right. Total unknown.
Normally, you just have to start reading, top to bottom, slowly, painfully. But with Cursor, the idea is you can just grab a chunk of code, or maybe the whole file, and ask it, summarize this, or explain what this does.
And the discussion we looked at really emphasized this. It's about getting that quick, high-level overview. What's the purpose of this section?
That sounds potentially like a massive time saver.
Oh, potentially huge. Think about it. Instead of spending, an hour or more just trying to get your bearings in a new file,
Yeah.
Cursor could give you that initial grasp almost instantly.
Yeah.
The source even hinted this could seriously cut down onboarding time for new team members.
Oh, right. Getting them up to speed faster. Makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you got the summary. You kind of understand what's going on. What next? Maybe you see stuff that could be, better.
Exactly. Which leads nicely into refactoring. Code improvement.
Refactoring suggestions. Tell me about that.
So Cursor can apparently look at your code and suggest ways to, simplify it, maybe make it run faster, or just make it easier to read.
And refactoring is crucial, isn't it? For keeping code healthy long term, avoiding that technical debt spiral.
Totally.
Yeah.
It's not just about making it look pretty. The source mentioned examples like spotting a complex loop that could be replaced with something more efficient.
Okay.
Or seeing a really big, clunky function and suggesting ways to break it down into smaller, more manageable pieces.
And the source stressed that these aren't just generic tips, right? It's context-aware.
Yes, that's a key point they made. Context-aware code completion. It's not just spitting out random suggestions.
So it looks at the rest of the project, the style you're using.
It tries to, yeah. It tailors the recommendations based on the specific project you're in and the way code is already written in that project.
That sounds much more useful than basic autocomplete.
It's definitely a step up. The suggestions are more likely to actually fit, to work with your existing code without causing new problems. Leads to cleaner code, hopefully more robust code, with less fighting the tool. Someone in the discussion even mentioned it, suggested a more idiomatic way to do something within their specific framework.
Framework-specific stuff. That's clever.
Yeah, something a generic tool probably wouldn't catch.
Okay, let's switch gears slightly. Bugs. The bane of every developer's existence.
Always.
How does Cursor help there? Can it actually find bugs?
Well, let's be careful here. The source was clear. It's not replacing proper testing or debugging. You still need that.
Right, okay. It's not magic.
No. But it can act as, an extra pair of eyes, an additional layer of review.
How so?
It can flag potential problems. Things like possible null pointer exceptions, or maybe race conditions. Issues that can be tricky to spot manually.
Before you even run the code.
Often, yes. That's the idea. It can also apparently identify potential performance issues.
Oh, like what?
Things like inefficient database queries that might slow things down, or maybe potential memory leaks, stuff like that.
Wow. Okay. So it's almost like having I don't know, a super pedantic teammate looking over your shoulder constantly.
Yeah, maybe a bit like that, but in a helpful way, hopefully. It's augmenting your own awareness,
Catching things you might miss, especially if you're tired or working on code you don't know well.
Precisely. And finding those things early. That can save so much pain later on when they pop up in production.
Yeah, no kidding. Okay, so we've got summarizing, refactoring, bug spotting. But you mentioned context earlier. The source seemed to think this contextual understanding was really important for Cursor.
It did. Yeah, that came across as a key differentiator.
Why is that so significant? How is it different from just basic autocomplete?
Well, basic autocomplete is pretty simple, right? It predicts the next word based on, recent keywords or standard syntax. Very surface level. Cursor, or at least the goal is, it tries to build a much deeper model of your entire project.
The whole project, not just the file.
Yeah. It analyzes relationships between files, between classes, functions, trying to see how everything fits together. Someone in the discussion compared it to having a mental map of the whole code base.
Okay, so practically, what does that mean?
It means if you're writing code that interacts with the database, because Cursor understands or tries to understand your database schema.
It could suggest relevant queries.
Exactly. Or if you're building a UI, it might suggest UI components that fit with the framework you're using because it recognizes the framework.
That is a much smarter kind of help than just finishing variable names.
Definitely. But, and this is a big but that the source also highlighted.
Uh-oh. Limitations.
Well, yeah. This amazing contextual understanding, it really depends on the code itself.
How so?
If your project is messy, poorly documented, tangled dependencies,
I know the type.
then even Cursor is going to struggle to make sense of it all. The suggestions won't be as good. The analogy they used was trying to navigate a badly documented city, hard to find your way if the map is bad.
Makes total sense. Garbage in, less useful suggestions out.
Pretty much. And the source also mentioned that building this context map takes a bit of time initially.
An indexing phase.
Yeah, especially for big projects. When you first open it up, Cursor needs a few moments to analyze everything and build its model.
Okay, understandable. But once it's done, the benefits should kick in.
That's the idea. More relevant, more intelligent help as you code.
Right. Now, developers are often particular about their setups, their coding styles.
Understatement of the year.
So how much can you actually tweak Cursor? Customize it, fine-tune it?
The source suggested it's reasonably configurable, which is good news. You could usually set things like your preferred indentation, line length, the basic style stuff.
Standard editor settings.
Right. But it also seems you can kind of train it.
Yeah.
To recognize and suggest coding patterns that are common in your team or your specific project.
Train it. How? By giving feedback.
Exactly. That feedback loop is apparently quite important. If Cursor suggests something weird or wrong,
you tell it.
Yeah. You provide feedback, and it learns over time. It gets better at matching your specific needs and style.
Okay, that's crucial for adoption, I think.
Definitely. Now, the source did mention some current gaps, like maybe not having fully custom code templates or snippets yet.
Okay.
So that was flagged as something potentially in the pipeline. And it might struggle a bit if your team has a really unusual, idiosyncratic coding style.
Fair enough. There are always edge cases.
But overall, the vibe from the discussion was a decent balance. Powerful customization, but still pretty easy to get started with.
Which, like you said, makes it much more likely developers will actually use it.
Precisely. If it's too hard to set up or forces a massive workflow change, people just won't bother. Cursor seems to be trying to avoid that.
Okay, last big piece, integration. A tool is only as good as how well it plays with others, right?
Absolutely critical for developer tools.
Yeah.
How does it fit into the existing ecosystem?
So what did the source say about Cursor's integration?
This seemed to be a real plus point, mainly because it's built on VS Code.
Leveraging the VS Code platform. Smart.
Yeah, VS Code is super popular as this huge extension marketplace already.
Yeah.
So Cursor kind of inherits a lot of that integration potential.
Like what specifically?
Well, the discussion mentioned really smooth integration with Git. Committed code, pushing, pulling, all from within the editor where Cursor is running.
Standard, but essential.
Essential, yeah. Also, Docker support was mentioned, important for containerized development.
Definitely.
And integration with testing frameworks. That was interesting.
How so?
The potential for Cursor to not just run your tests, but maybe even suggest new test cases based on the code you've just written.
Automatically suggest tests. That could be powerful.
Could be. It's all about making Cursor feel less like a separate add-on and more like a deeply embedded part of your whole development process.
Woven into the workflow.
Exactly. Now, obviously, the source acknowledged some integrations might be better than others right now. Not every single tool will be perfectly supported yet.
Sure, it's always evolving.
But the foundation, being built on VS Code, seems really strong for future integration possibilities.
Okay, so let's try and wrap this up. We've dived into the source, looked at Cursor's features. What are the main takeaways, the practical value here?
I think the big things are genuine boosts to productivity and potentially better code quality.
How? Through which features?
Through things like the quick code summarization, getting up to speed faster, the smart refactoring suggestions leading to cleaner code, the extra layer of bug spotting, catching errors early, and crucially, that contextual understanding, which makes the suggestions so much more relevant.
Plus the customization and the integration.
Right. Customization helps it fit your style, and integration helps it fit your workflow. It all adds up to making it a tool that developers might actually find useful day to day.
And the bottom line seems to be, it's an assistant, not a replacement.
Yes, absolutely. The source is clear on that too. It's here to augment developers, handle some of the tedious or error-prone stuff.
Freeing up developers to focus on what bigger picture things.
Yeah.
Exactly. Higher level thinking, system design, solving the really complex problems, innovation, the stuff humans are still much better at.
Okay, so here's a final thought for you, the listener, to chew on. Based on all this, how might tools like Cursor start to fundamentally change what a software developer does all day, even if they aren't replacing jobs wholesale tomorrow?
Yeah, interesting question.
What parts of your current work might get easier or faster, or even automated away? And maybe more importantly, what new skills might become more valuable because of these AI assistants?
Definitely something to think about as this technology continues to develop. Where does the human focus shift?
Exactly. Food for thought as you head back to your code.